Before we dive into today's tale, we invite you to share your location in the comments below. And remember to like and subscribe. Breakfast table. I savored my coffee, the morning sunlight pouring in through the kitchen window, gaze drifting over the local paper while she mindlessly stirred her tea. Seated beside me, her eyes glued to her phone, her expression reflecting the familiar air of indifference. The newspaper were the sole sounds permeating the room. Years of marriage, our mornings had settled into a pattern that felt both soothing and delicate. Endured a great deal prior to our meeting. Dissolution of her marriage to Marcus felt like a harrowing ordeal. Escape from after he was taken into custody for assaulting her during one of his alcohol-fueled. Year of dating. We finally exchanged vows. Age of 18. Arrived as an integral part of the package. Start that stepping into the role of a stepfather would present its challenges. Particularly with a girl like Karen, who kept her walls firmly in place. Invisible barrier stood between us. One that I found impossible to overcome. Not her father, nor have I ever attempted to take on that role. In my utmost effort to adapt, to carve out a space in their lives that resonates well for everyone involved. To terms with the reality that Karen might always see me solely as her mother's partner. Want to know something? No objections to that. Months. Brenda has seemed like an outsider in our home. Closeness we once enjoyed has gradually given way to an expanding separation. Small details have accumulated, diminishing closeness, leading to less dialogue, and her ongoing assertion of being too fatigued for anything. Then there's her phone, perpetually in her grasp, her gaze fixed on the display. The manner in which it is quickly stashed away as soon as I walk into the room has not escaped my attention. It has. Know what I'm doing. These are unmistakable warning signs. Clear as daylight. Initially, I attempted to extend her some grace. Perhaps it stemmed from pressure. Perhaps it was an action I took or a missed opportunity. Yet, as the weeks morphed into months, the persistent whisper in the recesses of my mind grew harder to dismiss. I took the necessary steps. I engaged the services of a private investigator. After spending $2, I finally found the answers I was seeking. An adept investigator may require a significant investment, yet uncovering the truth justifies every penny spent. The reality is that she has been involved with Marcus, her former husband, the very man who once shattered her, the one I believed she had moved on from for good. And now, the moment has arrived. I am aware of Brenda's intentions for me. Then, as if on cue, it began. Brenda folded the paper and set it down carefully on the table, her fingers resting on its edges as if seeking strength in its folds. She gazed at me, her lips sealed firmly before she eventually uttered a word. "Brian, I have something to share with you," she said, her voice unexpectedly gentle. I placed my coffee mug down with care, my gaze locked onto hers. "Oh, certainly, my dear, please proceed," I replied, maintaining a calm demeanor. She lingered, a hint of invitation in her demeanor, her fingers nervously toying with the edge of the tablecloth. "I'll be out for a month," she said, her voice breaking the stillness like a stone sinking into a calm lake. I maintained my composure, inclining my body just a bit. "All right," I responded with ease. Her shoulders tightened, and she shrugged once more, as if preparing for what was to come. "Well, I'll be away for a month. I'll be staying with Marcus," she said, her voice more resolute now, as if the repetition infused her with a newfound bravery. "It's the month of his birthday, and I want to make it special for him." I reclined in my chair, allowing the gravity of her words to sink in. My demeanor remained unchanged, yet I sensed a warmth building within my chest. Nevertheless, I compelled myself to stay composed as I responded. "So," I started, my voice filled with a subtle fervor. "What will you be doing there? Maintaining his home, preparing his meals, and being intimate with him? Is he unable to pay for someone to take care of that and enjoy himself? Why does my legally married wife have to be that kind of partner?" I stated, my voice cutting through the air as I took a sip of my coffee. Determined to keep my feelings in check. Her eyes widened, and she retorted, "What on earth are you talking about? I am neither a hooker nor a maid. I will stand by him as a devoted partner." I placed my coffee cup on the table, each motion measured and unhurried, striving to maintain a calm tone. Yet, as my thoughts raced, I couldn't help but wonder, since we are bound in marriage, Wouldn't whatever you intend to do with him be a betrayal? A violation of our vows? She remained steadfast, showing no signs of doubt. Instead, she met my gaze directly and stated firmly, "No, because I told you. Therefore, it cannot be considered cheating." I nodded, the ridiculousness of her reasoning settling in like a heavy burden. "All right, what are your expectations of me? Stay put for 30 days while my wife is off enjoying life with someone else?" Her irritation reached a breaking point, her voice laced with frustration. "Oh, really, Brian? I have certain cravings that only Marcus can satisfy for me." "All right," I retorted instantly, "as if binding you to a bed and striking you with a whip? Are you referring to those longings?" I was fully aware of her desires, having come across the texts and the videos. The visuals were etched into my memory, moments I could never erase. I maintained a composed demeanor. Yet beneath it all, my frustration brewed quietly, waiting to erupt. I gazed directly into her eyes and remarked, "So, you have your desires, but what of mine? Am I allowed to nurture my desires?" Her frustration was evident as she raised her hands in exasperation. "All right, go ahead and do as you please. But when I return, you'll return to being a devoted husband." I leaned forward, my voice measured and precise. "What happens if my desires remain unfulfilled after 30 days? What occurs next? What if I discover a greater source of fulfillment? One that makes me not wish to return to you? Is that agreeable to you?" Her expression contorted with annoyance. Yet before she could say anything, I shifted my attention to Karen, who had been quietly observing the whole interaction. "What are your thoughts, Karen?" I inquired, my tone unwavering yet incisive. "Is it worth it for your mother to jeopardize her marriage for a month with her new lover?" She regarded me with a defiant smirk and declared that she has her own needs and desires. "She is not yours to possess. She is not bound to you and can choose to quench her thirst wherever she pleases." Her tone was laced with such arrogance that it struck me hard. It was evident that Karen was doing more than merely supporting her mother. She was delighting in instructing me to go to hell. She held a strong opinion. She was observing intently. She played a significant role. I could perceive it in her gaze, sense it in the cadence of her voice. She was just as integral to this as Brenda. And I was aware of the complete reality. Karen was also headed to Marcus's house. The idea coiled within me, stirring a deep unease, yet I maintained a calm facade. I lifted both hands, a sign of giving in. "As both of you are eager for this to unfold, I won't stand in the way of the bigger picture." Brenda's lips curled into a smile, a smug, satisfied expression that pierced deeper than her words ever could. However, I had more to say. With a steady, measured tone, I pressed on. "Nonetheless, Brenda, please sign a document confirming that we will be officially and legally separated for the next 30 days. I cannot take on any financial or other responsibilities for you or your daughter during that period. I will have the freedom to pursue my wishes and tend to my passions." Brenda fixed me with a piercing gaze. Her tone was filled with doubt. "Can you explain how that functions?" I reclined in my chair, maintaining an air of tranquility and poise. "I will contact my attorney immediately. He'll prepare the required documents, and we can head to the court tomorrow to finalize everything. Uncomplicated." I took a moment, allowing the gravity of my words to linger before injecting a hint of sarcasm. "Therefore, I am simply paving the way for you. You have the freedom to spend time with Tom, Dick, or Harry over the next 30 days. And it won't be considered cheating, as we'll be apart." A subtle smirk played at the corner of my lips as I pressed on. "And I in return, can have my wishes fulfilled, with no obstacles in my way." Her eyes narrowed even more, a glimmer of suspicion dancing across her features. "Is there something I'm overlooking? What is the reason behind your actions?" I stood up gradually, gazing down at her with a sense of assurance. "Your words have already made it clear, Brenda, that you wouldn't have stopped. Therefore, I have no reason to hold you back." I offered her a subtle, measured smile, and honestly, I see this as a chance to fully embrace my aspirations. Karen grinned with satisfaction and remarked, "Mom, that's a great idea. I had no idea Brian was capable of offering you this kind of support." I faced her, countering her arrogance with a serene smile. "Oh, you wouldn't believe it." I exited the room in silence, my phone gripped firmly in my hand. I called my lawyer and kept it straightforward. just get it done. As the afternoon unfolded, my attorney was positioned across from Brenda in our living room, documents arranged meticulously in front of her. Without glancing at the documents, she seized the pen and signed with a flourish, exuding confidence in every movement. I reclined, observing her, and as she finished, a faint smile crept onto my lips. "It's complete now," I stated calmly, "and it will be finalized by tomorrow." That evening, I informed Brenda that I was going out for a drink. I chose not to explain or make excuses, I just walked away. I wasn't intoxicated when I came back hours later, but I ensured my return was late enough to steer clear of any interaction with her. The following morning, we found ourselves in the courtroom. Brenda stood beside me, exuding calmness, her confidence steadfast. The judge surveyed the document, his demeanor unchanging. "Mrs. Brenda Wilson, have you had this document reviewed by your attorney?" he inquired, glancing up from the papers. "For the upcoming 30 days, your husband will not be accountable for the financial support of you or your daughter, and he is free to pursue his own interests. Is this acceptable to you?" She nodded, her decision clear and unwavering. "Indeed, Your Honor." The judge nonchalantly shrugged his shoulders and replied, "Okay." That evening, Brenda moved energetically around the bedroom, filling her bags with a vigor I hadn't witnessed in months. Her face radiated joy, a striking difference from the unease that had permeated our home lately. I leaned against the doorframe, arms folded, observing her with an impassive gaze. She gazed at me, her enthusiasm overflowing. "Thank you so much, Brian. I can't express how incredibly joyful I feel right now. I'll ensure to compensate you when I return." Her words were nearly absurd, yet I maintained my poise. I offered a slight smile and said, "Oh, there's no need to concern yourself with that. I will ensure that I find my happiness." With that, I turned and walked out, my footsteps firm yet my mind a tempest of ideas. All was in place, each detail meticulously considered. The moment had arrived to put the plan into action. I have always taken pride in being a person of reason, someone who maintains emotional control and emphasizes logical solutions. Yet today, as I stood there, an unfamiliar ache washed over me, a sense of loss nibbling at the fringes of my determination. I had lost more than just Brenda. It was an essence that ran deeper, a complexity that eluded precise definition. Yet, she had already shattered our marriage long before this point. Every ounce of effort I dedicated to assisting her daughter, all the time, energy, and resources I invested in making their lives a bit more manageable, has gone to waste. The new car I purchased for her daughter, that substantial college fund I toiled to create, it all came to naught. And for what purpose? For her daughter to confidently assert that I don't possess her mother? It's quite disappointing. But when has life ever guaranteed an easy journey? The third law of motion proposed by Newton. Every action has a corresponding and opposing reaction. The essential truth of the universe remains intact, and I am now poised to demonstrate it through my response. That evening, Brenda departed with her daughter to join her ex-husband, Marcus, and I ensured I waved them goodbye. One final time, they were entitled to witness that farewell. Once they disappeared from view, I made my way to the kitchen and took the bottle of Jack Daniels from the cabinet. I filled my glass generously, dropped in a couple of ice cubes, and savored a delicate sip, allowing the comforting warmth of the drink to flow smoothly down my throat. This was the sole aspect that resonated with me in this moment. After that, I reached for the phone and dialed the number. The moment had arrived. "It's all finished," I declared, my tone unwavering. "Let's kick off the performance." The following morning, I arose with a well-defined strategy in mind. The initial loss was the vehicle I had purchased for my wife's daughter. It was a Honda, a vehicle she had adored from the moment she laid eyes on it. Despite her complaints about the color, she mentioned it wasn't her favorite. Yet that was of no consequence now. Unfortunate circumstances. She was now free to choose any color she desired for her next car. And with a bit of luck, her father, Marcus, would be able to purchase it for her. Next, I focused on my wife's car. The one she cherished. She always showcased it, behaving as if it were the greatest gift I could have ever given her. That's unfortunate. She never acknowledged the man who devoted himself to providing her with everything she desired. For the upcoming 30 days, Marcus will take care of her transportation. I will no longer be the source of that solace. The house loomed large, far too expansive for their needs. They had voiced their grievances about it repeatedly over the years. They often expressed a desire for something more compact and inviting, reminiscent of the home Marcus owned. Since they're already in that situation, it makes sense to solidify it for the long term. It seems unlikely that they'll revisit this one in the near future. By the end of the day, I had secured what I sought, $2 million at my disposal, or more precisely, in my offshore account, enough with the sacrifices. At last, I was free to pursue my desires, unencumbered by any obstacles or influences. 3 days went by, and the stillness felt nearly serene. Yet again, the phone rang. It was Brenda. Her voice trembled, as if she were striving to maintain her poise. Yet the underlying panic was unmistakable. I dialed the number, yet there was no response. "Where might you be?" A smile crept onto my face. The irony unmistakable. I lifted my drink, savored a deliberate sip, and seamlessly responded, nurturing my aspirations. With that, I concluded the call, interrupting her before she had a chance to reply. That evening, my phone buzzed incessantly. Initially, it was Brenda, followed by Karen. They were both calling incessantly. It was evident they were seething, and probably in a state of panic. I had a solid intuition about it. By now, they should have received the notifications from the bank. The shared account was depleted. The education savings vanished. Their voices carried a palpable shock, and I grasped the reason behind it. They were completely unprepared for the impact. But truly, how could I tend to my desires when all my funds were locked away in those accounts? Yet, I hesitated to respond right away. The calls persisted, yet I chose not to reply. Allow them some time to reflect, to come to terms with the chaos I had created. After enduring 3 endless days of relentless ringing, I finally made the decision to pick up the phone. "Hello, Brenda. How have you been?" I spoke, my tone steady, nearly nonchalant. "I apologize for not being able to answer your calls. I was preoccupied with fulfilling my own desires." She was unrestrained. The barbs, the allegations, the manipulative tactics, a relentless stream of them came pouring out. Every bit of nonsense you could think of, along with some things that had me questioning reality. Yet, truthfully, her anger was completely justified. I didn't anticipate any compassion. I remained seated, absorbed in the moment, anticipating her conclusion. And when she finally ceased her words, I understood it was the moment to act. "It seems this isn't the right moment for a conversation. Farewell." I ended the call before she had the chance to say anything else. It continued for 5 days. 5 consecutive days of her yelling and me disconnecting, each call increasingly desperate than the one before. At this stage, it felt nearly inevitable. However, on the 6th day, as I began to gather my thoughts, I sensed a distinct change. She was not raising her voice. She wasn't directing her frustration towards me. Rather, her voice carried a serene quality. She inquired, what was the reason for taking all the money away? I reclined, savoring the moment before responding. Indeed, residing in a luxurious 5-star hotel in Jamaica comes with a hefty price tag. How am I supposed to pay for it without depleting the college fund that I contributed to for your daughter? What is happening? That was the vacation I had always envisioned. How could you betray me like this? She was furious. My wish was for you to stay true to me. That didn't go as planned. So I found an alternative. A getaway in Jamaica accompanied by a young blonde Russian woman. Brenda's voice trembled with rage as she shouted, "This will not go unpunished. When I return, you will face the consequences." Her fury radiated from the phone, searing its way through the connection. To be honest, it didn't bother me at all. I had anticipated it. She had a tendency to blow things out of proportion. The familiar tale unfolds once more. However, it wasn't the type of feeling I was prepared to confront at this moment. I wasn't feeling up to a confrontation. Not with her, not with anyone at all. I inhaled deeply, my grip on the phone growing firmer. "I suppose you're feeling angry," I remarked, my tone steady, perhaps overly steady. This isn't the type of feeling I wish to confront at the moment. Before she had the chance to say anything further, I hit the end call button. Her threats were unnecessary at this point. Not today. Almost a month had gone by, and it was now the moment to transition to the next stage of my strategy. I stepped onto the plane, my mind set on a specific destination. One that promised more than just an ordinary escape. No, this was something more significant. Thailand. During my time as a software analyst, I often received offers for a partnership at a firm in Bangkok. Back then, I dismissed it, sensing no desire for anything beyond that. But now, with no real attachments holding me back at home, nothing of significance remaining, I thought, why not? Having accepted their offer, I found myself on the journey ahead. The journey on the plane stretched on, yet it offered a moment for contemplation, a chance to ponder all that had brought me to this point. As the wheels made contact with the ground, an unexpected wave of relief washed over me. My decision was final. I had progressed forward. I've arrived in Bangkok. I powered up my phone and promptly dialed my attorney. She is returning today. Kindly pass along my gift to her. The moment had arrived for all to be revealed. Later that evening, Brenda and Karen made their way back to the place they once referred to as home. The thought of their expressions upon discovering what lay in store for them was simply irresistible to ponder. A man stood at the door, patiently waiting. He approached them with a composed demeanor and a sense of expertise. "Greetings, are you Mrs. Brenda Wilson?" he inquired. She nodded, her expression a blend of uncertainty and fear. "You have received your notice." The man presented her with a manila envelope, stepped back a few paces, and captured a photograph before departing in silence. The image, that fleeting moment frozen in time, remained the most remarkable sight I had encountered in some time. There she stood, Brenda, clutching that envelope, her expression twisting as tears began to stream down her cheeks. And Karen, she stood next to her, a look of complete disbelief on her face, her gaze sweeping over the driveway. "Hey, where did my car go?" she inquired, her voice trembling. As I anticipated, the phone call commenced. I allowed the calls to go unanswered, biding my time until I found solace in my hotel room before finally dialing her number. I didn't have to utter a word. She answered almost instantly, and before I could utter a single word, she erupted. "Your character lacks integrity. You feel envious of Marcus. Your ego was too much for you to manage." Her voice pierced the air, a relentless barrage of familiar barbs, the typical retorts of a guilty partner when exposed. I refrained from interrupting her. I remained completely unfazed. I simply absorbed the sounds. This time, I refused to end the call. I wasn't fleeing from it. I patiently awaited my turn. "Have you had a chance to open the envelope?" I inquired, my tone unwavering. A moment of quiet lingered before the soft shuffle of paper broke the stillness. Within were the photographs of her and Marcus, engaged in intimacy, complete with time stamps and locations. Even those moments when she found herself bound to the bed. "You knew all along," she said, her voice trembling for the first time. "Indeed," I responded with composure. "I certainly did." I could almost sense her grappling with it, the gravity of the reality settling in. "Since you made your bed," I continued, "I ensured you'd rest in it. You made no effort to intervene." She exclaimed, "Oh no, why would I ever want to hold you back? Your choice to betray our trust marked the end of our marriage. Besides, why would I have to pick between a deceitful partner and a getaway in Jamaica?" The subsequent section felt nearly effortless. "The divorce proceedings have commenced on the grounds of infidelity, and I've retained a portion of funds in the shared account. I trust that will suffice for you to get to Marcus's house." The tension was palpable, the raw anger radiating from the other end. Yet I remained unfazed. The decision was no longer hers to make. Her voice pierced the phone, filled with urgency and anguish. "No funds were left for your daughter. What path will she take to attend college?" I acted without a moment's pause. "She absolutely will not," I retorted. "Not with my funds. She is not my daughter. Her actions have demonstrated that repeatedly. She has the opportunity to attend college funded by her father's resources." A lengthy silence enveloped the room before the sound of the phone being abruptly taken away broke through. Karen's voice followed, and once more, I found myself overwhelmed by a relentless onslaught of screams and insults. I understood what this was. I understood that this would be our final exchange. The last moment I would hear from either of them. I persevered through it. Then, in a voice that fluctuated between fury and incredulity, Karen exclaimed, "You sold my car." "No," I have parted ways with my car, I retorted, standing my ground without a hint of hesitation. You have taken my college fund from me. Her voice trembled with desperation as tears streamed down her face. The bitterness became too much to contain. No, I responded with a chill in my voice. I ensured I had the funds to support my longing for a Jamaican getaway, after all. It was my money, and I reclaimed it, and then, without skipping a beat, I added, as you mentioned, your mother can drink from any watering hole. So can I. She let out another scream, her voice trembling with rage and exasperation. What should I say to my friends? My vehicle has disappeared. I remained completely unfazed. Inform them that your unfortunate stepfather sold it to finance his trip to Jamaica. And now you're returning to stay with your biological father for the winter. A sharp breath was drawn on the other end before Brenda quickly reclaimed the phone. Her voice oozed with blame. You took our money. I will contact the authorities. By all means, proceed, I urged. My demeanor is entirely serene. You agreed to that legal document that released me from any financial obligation to you. I used up the funds in just 30 days. And now I'm out of cash. I am currently without funds. She retorted instantly, her incredulity palpable in her tone. Are you asking me to accept that? A smile graced my lips. I never requested your belief. But in the courtroom, I will demonstrate that truth. I concluded the conversation with a serene, definitive touch. For any additional correspondence, kindly reach out to my attorney. The envelope contains his number. Wishing you a wonderful day. Brenda. A few days later, I sensed that Brenda would attempt to contest the divorce. Yet I felt assured in my lawyer's capability to manage the situation. Brenda asserted that I was aware of her living arrangements with her ex-husband and had given my approval. The images, complete with time stamps and location details, were then presented by my lawyer. Prior to the agreed 30-day period, my lawyer stated, Your Honor, that Mrs. Wilson's prior relationship with Mr. Parker, which began before these 30 days, clearly constitutes cheating, as Mr. Wilson was unaware of her unfaithfulness. The assertion that my client was aware in advance and consented to her infidelity with her ex-husband is untrue. She deceived her husband and shattered his trust. Furthermore, my attorney swiftly demonstrated that I had exhausted all my funds on trips to Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. All the receipts, invoices, and more, everything was above board. Additionally, Mrs. Wilson relinquished her financial responsibilities during the 30-day period she spent with her ex-husband. The judge, however, was far from naive. He sensed the air was thick with cunning and falsehood. Yet, his options were limited. The documents were carefully organized, and the legal procedures were adhered to with precision. His hands were restrained, shackled by the rigid constraints of the law. Despite his ability to perceive the barely concealed pretense, he instructed that any remaining asset be appropriately resolved. At that moment, Brenda's lawyer, evidently in a tight spot, attempted to raise the issue of child support. However, my attorney was determined not to let that go unnoticed. He promptly voiced his disagreement with conviction. He highlighted the evident reality. Karen was not my daughter, neither by biology nor by law. I had never adopted her, and the judge was aware that this was a vital detail that made child support unnecessary. My attorney went further than that. However, he proceeded to take a daring step, one that would only amplify the ridiculousness of the whole scenario. He contended that I had relinquished all my earthly duties, opting for the journey of a Buddhist monk, without income, without belongings, without commitments. The defense was bold, yet it proved effective. The judge, maintaining a stoic demeanor throughout the majority of the proceedings, found it nearly impossible to suppress a chuckle at the absurdity of the situation. He cast a quick look at Brenda, a smirk playing on his lips, revealing his delight. Unfortunate circumstances, madam, he remarked, struggling to suppress his amusement. His words resonated in the courtroom, capturing the essence of finality. I'm unable to assist you any further. The divorce has been finalized, and the funds from the joint account are to be allocated to Brenda. A month post-divorce, I discovered that Brenda and Karen had taken up residence with Marcus. The truth, however, was quite different from the image they likely imagined. The family they envisioned was far from the reality they faced. Indeed, it was a recurrence of the harmful, oppressive pattern that Brenda had desperately sought to break free from. In a haze of intoxication, Marcus resumed his violent behavior towards Brenda, echoing the dark patterns of their past together. It seems Brenda had a preference for intensity. What about Karen? She remained a quiet observer, unable to influence the unfolding events around her. Brenda found herself unable to walk away from him. She found herself adrift, without a destination or anyone to lean on. She found herself ensnared, caught in the same haunting dream that I had once experienced. Karen now walks to school or takes the bus. Gone are the days of indulgence and effortless journeys. The solace they once relished had vanished. What about Marcus? My retribution towards him was never intended to be aggressive. It was straightforward. I provided him with what he desired. Now, he had the responsibility of nurturing and providing for his new family. His wife for 30 days and her daughter. Allow him to face the repercussions of his choices. Allow him to confront the consequences of the chaos he has brought upon himself. I had provided him precisely what he yearned for. However, it came at a cost. At times, it's wise to tread lightly regarding your desires. There's a chance you could achieve it. Dear listeners, we invite you to share your insights in the comment section below. Also, remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay connected.